Here's a bit of a contentious notion for you. I sometimes think that the minor pentatonic scale can actually be a little bit underrated. Despite it being known as a bit of a guitarist's cliche, I do feel that the sheer versatility of the scale can sometimes get overlooked. It's probably one of the first scales you learned. And if you're into blues and blues soloing, then happy days, you have a new best friend. But what if you come at music from a slightly more left field place and your tastes are a little bit more alternative? You might have been tempted to chuck that scale away in a bin that's marked basic blues bullshit, but you'd be wrong to do that because it's actually the backbone of a lot of alternative music as well, as we shall go on to discover. So the minor pentatonic scale then, probably worth just making sure that we're all on the same page before we kick off. You probably know it as a shape already, and whether you're into blues or alternative stuff, it might feel like it goes against the grain a little bit to delve into the theory, but worth knowing for all sorts of reasons, I would say. So the minor pentatonic scale is made up of the following intervals. It has a root note, a minor third, a fourth, a fifth, and a minor seventh. For example, in the key of A, our root note is going to be A, surprise, surprise. The minor third is the third note of a full A minor scale, which is going to be a C. And you can find the minor third of a note just by travelling up 3 frets. So we have A, and then C for the minor third. The fourth is the same in the major scale as it is in the minor scale, and in this case it's D. And then the fifth, likewise, known as a perfect interval, it's the same in major scales and minor scales, is E. And the minor seventh, you're probably cottoning on, is the seventh note in the A minor scale, and that is G. And then we return to our root note A. And that's really, really useful to know, as we're going to be looking at this in a few different keys and in a few different areas of the fretboard. Right, riff 1 then, you will have definitely heard already. It goes like this. Song 2 by Blur, of course. I probably should have done this second, come to think of it, but anyway. We are in the key of F minor here, and we are basically covering the entire F minor pentatonic scale. The F minor pentatonic scale, following the same intervals as before, of course, root, minor third, fourth, fifth, minor seventh, is F, A flat, B flat, C, and E flat. And what's happening in this riff is we are just moving a power chord shape up and down along the same set of strings. We're starting on our root, the F, here at the 8th position, then we're moving down to the E flat, the minor 7th, then we're lurching up to the minor 3rd, A flat, and just continuing through the scale. B flat, C. And this avoids the blues cliches in a couple of ways, mainly just by sheer heaviness. So if you're going to cover this in your band, there's a couple of key ingredients, I would say. Firstly, and I know this might set a bit of a dangerous precedent, your bass player needs to be a bit louder, and they need to use quite a heavy fuzz or distortion sound as well. Also, heaviness comes from this rather neat little move of using inverted power chords. So an inversion is simply where we change the order of a note in the way that the notes are stacked together. Now, when you're playing a power chord, you've only got 2 different notes. You're playing a root note and the fifth above it. So in the case of F there, we're playing the F root and then the C, which is a fifth above. An inverted power chord doubles up on that fifth in the lower octave, like this. and almost sounds like you're playing a guitar in drop D tuning, but you're not. So you're barring the low E and A strings at the 8th fret. So you're playing the C there on the E string and the F there on the A string, and including that higher C there as well. And that shape is used throughout the riff to really bring a lot of heaviness to it. Second riff then, don't be alarmed by the way, it's just a bass. I've got this out because I want to talk about the song She's Lost Control by Joy Division, which makes a great use of the G minor pentatonic scale, which goes like so. G, B flat, C, D, and F. But we have this distinctly un-bluesy sounding riff that goes like so. Where we start up kind of ridiculously high on a bass, this high D note right up at the 19th fret on the G string. And we're working our way down the scale, basically. C, D, C, then down to the B flat, and then back to the C, B flat, C, B flat, down to G at the 12th. So indisputably the G minor pentatonic scale, but we're avoiding the cliches here in a couple of ways. Firstly, just simply by playing it along the length of one string, and by playing it in this deliberately cold, almost expressionless kind of way. We're getting a sound a little bit closer to what you might expect from a synthesizer or something like that. It sounds to me like he's using all down picks as well for a kind of a, again, very deliberately monotonous kind of a tone. And interestingly, if you play that same riff but kind of changing strings, as you might expect to conventionally, you can kind of hear the blues almost creeping back in there, just by the kind of texture of the note changing as you move string. Makes it sound a little bit more conventional. So rather like in song 2 actually, where we are keeping the same shape along the same strings, it automatically sounds a little bit less cliched perhaps. Next example is Date with the Night by Yeah Yeah Yeahs, which goes like this. And our scale this time is the E minor pentatonic scale. So that is going to be an E, a G, an A, a B, and a D. And rather like in song 2, we are covering the entire scale throughout the course of this riff. Now this one, interestingly, it's not, in my mind, that far removed from traditional blues playing. We're not a million miles from a bit of a swing in the rhythm, but again, we're going for something deliberately cold and expressionless. There's none of your traditional blues techniques like bending or vibrato or anything like that. And what's going on here? We're basically hitting that low E and playing the G to A, up here from 10 to 12 on the A string, and then D to E, 5 to 7. then the power chords are A and then G. Then back to our riff. And the second time with the power chords it goes B and then A. So yeah, all the notes of the E minor pentatonic scale are being used there. And we're also kind of sounding a little bit more garagey, a little bit more alternative, just by sheer nastiness of the tone, really, and I mean that very much as a compliment. Sounds like the bridge pickup of a Strat to me, and quite a thin, nasal sounding kind of overdrive. So I've cranked the drive a little bit, but not and the tone, but not gone too mad on the volume. And fourth and final riff today is My Propeller by Arctic Monkeys, which goes like this. Which, like the last example, sounds like the bridge pickup of a Strat to me, and again uses the E minor pentatonic scale, E, G, A, B and D. In this case, in the possibly more familiar setting of the open position. And what's happening here is we're playing that open low E, jumping up to the B, E, A, E, then G to A, G, and then we finish by going B, G, E. And we're again sidestepping some of the more obvious pentatonic cliches by, yet again, eschewing any vibrato or bending, so it doesn't sound like your typical blues solo. It has this very kind of haunting, hypnotic kind of a pattern to it, which it also comes from its making use of slightly wider interval jumps than you'd often get in blues solos, like that bit at the end, where we're actually running down an E minor arpeggio by going B, G, E. So we're managing to avoid those slightly more obvious scale patterns just by simply jumping a little bit wider within the scale, like at the start there. And quite a kind of relatively clean tone as well, to make it sound kind of quite understated and haunting. And there we go, 4 minor pentatonic bass songs that manage to avoid some of the typical blues cliches. Please let me know if you have any other favourites that do likewise. And as ever, really hope there was some stuff of interest there to you. If so, please consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you with something else very soon. Cheers.